Hi everyone, welcome along to the first narration style video that I've produced for the Prudhoe Hospital Memories Facebook page. Today we are on a walk through Prudhoe Hospital Woods. Now, as far as I'm aware, this signpost contains the only direct reference to the fact that Prudhoe Hospital was once in this area, and that to me is a good enough reason to film the walk for the PHM page. Some of you may be wondering why I set up the PHM Facebook page in the first place, and there are basically two reasons for this. Firstly, although I've never worked at Prudhoe Hospital, I had 4 family members who did. Principally among them was my granddad, who left Clarevale Pit in the 1930s in search of more secure employment. He started work at Prudhoe Hospital in what was known as the Stick House, and steadily made his way through the grades, reaching the post of Deputy Chief in the 50s and 60s. He never made it to Chief because Mr. Murphy, who was above him, was a younger man, and promotion in those days often happened as a result of the person above you retiring. My granddad passed away in 1982 when I was just 11, so although I often heard the phrase Prudhoe Hall, I never really knew what it meant. The second reason is because I'm very interested in local history. My life has mostly revolved around the Greenside, Crowcrook and Prudhoe areas, and I'm a member of the history group that meets in Greenside. When I was photographing Prudhoe Hospital between 2007 and 2015, I was worried that the site would be demolished without much of a care about its historical connections to the local community. So there was very much a sense that even if it was just me who recorded the site, at least someone had. The next step was to see who shared my interest. Stanley Burn winds its way through the entire Prudhoe Hospital wood, and this is a great example of how close the burn gets in places to the path. Burn House, obviously named after Stanley Burn, is over this hillside about 100 metres away. This is a photo of Burn House in a derelict state back in October 2008, very much in keeping with the western half of the hospital site at the time. But back around 1870, before the Littles built the Catholic church next to Prudhoe Hall, they dedicated a room inside of the hall to use as a Catholic chapel. Burn House is where Friar Joseph Sturton, who is thought to have been the first resident priest of the chapel, lived. The last use of Burn House, with reference to Prudhoe Hospital, was as a home for residents who were getting ready to leave the hospital for life in the community. This is Burn House today. I think it's fair to say that whoever is responsible for the transformation of Burn House has done an absolutely exceptional job, and it's great to see the building looking so good. Anyway, back to the walk. If you're thinking about walking through Prudhoe Hospital Woods for yourself, please do take care. The path is quite steep and uneven in places, and as you can see here, it's very heavily rutted too. It's also obvious that the first of the 4 bridges through the wood could do with a little maintenance. The first time I can remember seeing this derelict building was about 15 years ago, but I didn't really pay much attention to it or think about its relevance to Prudhoe Hall or the hospital itself at the time. To be honest, since then, I'd completely forgotten about it. Now at this point I should give a shout out to local YouTuber, the Northern Wayfarer, who did a great video in May 2020 about Stanleyburn Woods and the Seven Bridges Walk, but which also included a reference to this building. I'll put a link to the Northern Wayfarer's YouTube video in the comments section directly below, in case you'd like to take a look yourself. But what do you know about this building? All I can tell you is that it doesn't feature on any maps covering the last 100 years. But although I'm no expert, it seems to me that it's been somewhere to process wastewater. When I created a post about this building on the page recently, someone made the interesting point that it may have been connected to Prudhoe Hall when it was a private house. But the large concrete pipes coming down the hillside from where the hospital used to be suggest it may be too modern for that. So the most likely reason for its existence is connected to the hospital. Catering for around 1,500 residents at its height means an awful lot of flushing toilets and washed hands, the wastewater from which would all have to be processed somewhere. Presumably once processed, it would then have been released into the burn. It's easy to ignore Prudhoe Hospital Woods in favour of the popular Seven Bridges Walk, but it's certainly a lovely walk nonetheless, especially on a day like today. But I'm sure the ambience of this wood takes on a very different feel at night. So if you're one of those members of staff that had to head into these woods in the dark, looking for the odd runaway resident, then it's safe to say that whether you're male or female, you're more of a man than I am. As a disclaimer, I should have mentioned earlier that I'm not actually a filmmaker, nor does my voice lend itself well to narration, so please do forgive me for any mistakes that I've been making along the way. On reviewing this footage and bearing in mind that I'm carrying the camera at head height, I'm well aware that some of my camera angles suggest that I'm around 18 inches tall. I can't promise you that I am of average height. The footpath off to the left takes you up to the front lawn of Prudhoe Hall. I did go up this path, but I've edited out the footage because the large security fence around the hall made getting any decent shots impossible. I can't help thinking this path will be closed off when the renovation of Prudhoe Hall is complete. Otherwise any Tom, Dick or Harry will be able to walk over their lawn with a video camera while the inhabitants are trying to eat their tea. One thing that was synonymous with the Prudhoe Hospital Drive, the main site, and now this walk, is the abundance of rhododendrons. I'm not sure whether they're in full bloom or just past their best at the moment, but it certainly makes for a colourful walk nevertheless. This is Weatherby's Gill. Weatherby's Gill is not mentioned on the latest OS map of this area, but take a look at this map from 1921. I've marked Weatherby's Gill in green, and the arrow is to show you which direction we are currently facing. Prudhoe Hall can be clearly seen off to the left. So why have I highlighted this feature? Take a look at this map from 1951. Again, Prudhoe Hall can be clearly seen, but so now can several new buildings around Weatherby's Gill. When an independent study was commissioned on the Prudhoe Hospital site in August 2016, the following assessment was made of the building you had to cross Weatherby's Gill to access. The building is somewhat secluded and screened by mature trees. It is terraced into the southeast facing slope of the site and therefore sits low in the landscape. The building we are talking about is, of course, Redburn. It's no surprise to me that Redburn had a strange feel about it, and I believe Weatherby's Gill has a lot to do with that. One former employee said about Redburn, "I'm not one for many experiences of anything supernatural, but I had a couple of very odd, disturbing experiences there. For me, it had a very strange feel about it, particularly in the office and upstairs. I was happy when we finally left the building." The fact that the easiest way to access the building from the riding was over Weatherby's Gill, and any rooms upstairs were pretty much in the canopies of the trees, are sure to have amplified that strange feeling. The only bit of video footage I ever took of the hospital was during my final visit to the site in June 2015. The first few seconds are of me crossing Weatherby's Gill. If you'd like to see that footage, simply look for the first video I put on the Prudhoe Hospital Memories page. I remarked to the friend who was with me at the time that crossing the bridge to Redburn gave the building a very unwelcoming feel, unlike any other on the site. But admittedly, that was before I realised that you could also access the building by coming down past the close. Just coming into view are a wall of large rocks that have been used to strengthen the left side of Stanley Burn. This work was probably done many decades ago. The deliberate shoring up of the burn suggests that in the past, the volume and flow of the water was far greater than it is nowadays. If that's true, then I wonder why the level of the burn has dropped so significantly. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that Prudhoe Hospital Woods ends at this bridge, which accesses Lowguards Wood. I'm going to end by sharing a few photos with you to compare the Prudhoe Hospital site today with when it was still up. Thanks a lot for joining me on this walk. You can comment on any aspect of this video below. If you've enjoyed this video and wish to see similar narration style videos in future, please do let me know.